Welcome to the OVW podcast, the unofficial podcast of Ohio Valley Wrestling. My name is Jack Minoaks.
And I'm Brian Hines.
It's a Monday in the feed. You know what that means. We're sitting down with another personality around Ohio Valley Wrestling, this time in the form of Rob Edwards. Rob Edwards, how are you?
I'm very well, thank you. How are you guys?
We're doing well. Thanks for joining us.
Fantastic. Thank you.
So I kind of have a general question that I kind of ask everyone, and I think for you it's going to have a more interesting answer than a weirder answer, more outside baseball answer, right? How did you end up at Ohio Valley Wrestling?
That is a very fair question, and a question I've been asked many, many times, and it's a bizarre one. I mean, this is not something that I was looking for. It's not something I ever imagined would be a proposition that would fall on my desk. But it was through a mutual introduction from somebody that I was talking to regarding my football club. We were looking to create a second or take on a second opportunity within the sporting industry.
Mm-hmm.
They had some contacts in North America where there was potentially some opportunities within sport, and he introduced me to Matt Jones.
Okay.
I met Matt. Fortunately, he was in Europe anyway in August last year. So it was at the time that I reached out, he was due to be in London that week. So that kind of meant the stars may be aligning somewhat.
Yeah, that's kind of kismet.
So I did what every Englishman does when someone from overseas comes to town. I took him to an Indian restaurant, and we had a great lunch, and it was just more a general open conversation. There was zero agenda as to where that would go, and there was some synergy. Matt done some research on what we'd done within sport in the UK, and he was obviously suitably impressed. I was a wrestling fan as a kid, and he grew up in the Attitude Era, which was the greatest era of any sport or entertainment industry. I would say it was it kind of defined a generation. So
absolutely,
yeah, it was a big part of my upbringing. And then when you get to kind of 15, 16, sport, girls,
yeah,
football all kind of takes over. So it wasn't really a great chat upline of did you watch Raw last night? So I kind of moved into other areas, but kind of always kind of seen bits and pieces on TV, but it was never something that I followed for quite some time. But I had obviously awareness of the value of the industry and where it was going. So it was something that was definitely of interest. To what extent and what involvement there would be, there was never really a clear idea as to where that was going to go. But I kind of took the plunge and went to Louisville in December last year, just with a view of gaining a bit more of understanding in the business,
mm-hmm.
What the challenges were, speaking to some of the staff, the talent, going to some of the local bars purely for research purposes, obviously, just to ask people about OVW and what OVW meant to them, just to try and understand locally what the kind of feel was for OVW. And it did trigger a lot of thinking, a lot of opportunities. It was quite disappointing for me that there wasn't really a huge amount of awareness of OVW.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of imagined it would be a Louisville institution, that it would be everywhere, particularly how long it's been in around the town and the provenance it has in the industry. I was kind of expecting
mm-hmm.
a little bit more awareness locally, but that also is exciting. It means that we have a canvas really to be able to tell a new story, rather than necessarily with it being an ex-WWE territory 15, 20 years ago. We have an opportunity to create something different. So for me, that was quite exciting. And yeah, you kind of open the bonnet a little bit more and see, actually, look, this is an opportunity that's really of interest. I can see huge potential, and that was at the point we really started discussing a deal and how that would necessarily work, what the logistics of that would be. We formalized that. Actually, again, met Matt in Amsterdam. We realized the first 3 times I met Matt was in 3 different countries. So we certainly took OVW on tour, and so we had lunch in Amsterdam, and we kind of shook hands and agreed that this was going to be the way forward. And then here we are. That gave us a good run up of a few weeks to try and get a bit more understanding. I went to Kentucky the last week of April, purely then with my business hat on, and let's get things moving. And here we are. So it feels like it wasn't that long ago, but yeah, 9 months ago was the first conversation with Matt and with we kind of flirted, but somewhat in terms of how this was going to work. There was not really a clear way forward at that point, but we've managed to forge something that we think is a good deal for both of us. And yeah, 3 or 4 weeks in now, and it's been it's been eye-opening to say the least. But I'm looking forward to it.
Can you kind of, for our listeners who may not know, kind of describe your background in sports in general, sports management?
Yeah, so I mean, I have a finance background by profession. That's pretty much what I did most of my working career. Finance is a great career. It pays well. You get to be involved in some cool businesses in various guises, but it wasn't really for me. I always had an entrepreneurial spirit. I was the kid who would buy a magazine and sell the posters in primary school and buy sweets wholesale and bag them up and sell them for a profit. So I always kind of had a bit of an idea as to where I wanted to go outside of finance, although it was a good grounding. And sport and hospitality are two big passions since I was a kid. So I have some interest in hospitality, but the sporting side started 5 years ago. Actually, in 4 days' time would be my 5th anniversary of taking over Haverfordwest County, who I'll give you the actual definition rather than, thank you. I'll give you the actual definition of the club rather than Jim Cornett's view, which I've really enjoyed listening to. We are a small town in Wales of nearly 15,000 people, but we play in the National League within Wales, so it's the top division, has access to European competition, live TV, and I just saw the opportunity of using my kind of business background, finance background, to try and build a sustainable football club that can compete in the highest level within Wales and go into European competition. The community and social impact was always a big part of that, which is something that I want to bring into OVW. And I guess to sum up that extent, the 5 years have been probably the most successful in the club's history. We qualified for European competition again on Sunday, and our under-19 development side became champions of Wales for the first time ever on Saturday. So they'll also be competing in Europe against the academies of some of the best clubs in Europe, which, again, for a small town is a massive achievement. And we had officially we had 1,700, but we couldn't report any more than that. We actually had close to 2,000 people in the stadium on Sunday. And again, it's a huge percentage of the population and shows that people have really got behind us. So we have a track record of taking something with history and provenance and creating a level of ambition, innovation, community impact to get people on our side and support us. And fortunately, that's been able to take us into a really strong position. The idea was always to look for a second opportunity. We wanted a bigger opportunity to prove that the blueprint that we have in place can work. And I strongly feel this was really genuinely the right opportunity for us to go next, because there's a lot of similarities in that there's a disconnect between the town, I believe, from the research that I've seen, the people that I've spoken to. There's not a poster, there's not a sticker, there's not an advert, there's nothing on the Go to Louisville website, there's nothing at the tourism office, there's nothing to say OVW is there, whereas it should be. People go to Louisville for the Slugger Museum, for Churchill Downs, for Bourbon. They should also come for OVW. And that's something where I feel the local connection can really build that. And again, it's got history. It just needs a clear direction, a clear message to be able to take this to Louisville and beyond. At the moment, or during the time that I was there in December and subsequent conversations from then, there was never really a clear understanding inside or outside the business what OVW stood for. And that for me is exciting, because like I said at the beginning, we can create a message that we can take out, and that's something that will consistently be said across all areas of the business. And once we have that clear defined message and we can start to celebrate that message, we can then ask and demand people to back us, sponsor us, come and watch our shows, spread the word of OVW. But we can't do that without having kind of solid foundations in place. And that's what we were able to achieve in Wales. Now we have a clear message, we have great relationships with local sponsors, and we're spoke of really favourably across Welsh football because of how we're trying to do things. And I'd love that to be the same within OVW. I'd love other independent promotions. I'd love rep talent. I'd love people associated with wrestling in the US to look at OVW and say, look, maybe these guys are trying to do something different now, and kind of taking it beyond what it was in the past and focus purely on where it can go in what is a really booming industry, particularly with WWE moving to Netflix. It's kind of taken wrestling to another level. There's less stigma attached with being a wrestling fan. I know so many grown-ups that watch wrestling in the closet because they're ashamed to say that they're a wrestling fan. But I think that whole stigma has been removed now with, I guess, how accessible and how prominent wrestling is on television, streaming services. And I think the industry is only going to go from strength to strength, and it's only going to benefit in independent promotions like us.
So first off, congratulations with your success over the last 5 years with Haverford West.
Yes, congratulations.
Second, throughout the course of this interview and even in your kind of earlier press statements, community and community engagement has been at the forefront of what you've wanted to do. It's at the forefront of what you did in Wales, and you've mentioned it several times about doing it with Ohio Valley Wrestling. What type of, what is the extent, where do you see, if you could have it your way, right? What do you see OVW's role in Louisville as?
Well, I think I want OVW and the Davis Arena to be a community asset. We've done that within the football club. We have 30+ hours a week of community engagement, and that can be soup kitchens, fit and fed programs, after school clubs, digital inclusion, early onset dementia. We have we're one of the founding clubs to do programs around Parkinson's disease. So it's an area where people can come together and not just kind of celebrate sport, but be somewhere within the community that brings people together. That then directly generates awareness to the football club and what we're trying to do on the field. And that investment in the community will then in turn allow people or aspire to people to actually go and invest in the football club. So it's a give and take scenario. I think within OVW, looking at kind of the demographic, I think it's the 1 in 6 children or 1 in 6 youths in Louisville grow up in poverty. 6th or 7th highest city for major city for violent crime, mostly amongst youths. There's just a real opportunity where we can provide an outlet, an opportunity for people locally, and that doesn't necessarily have to be just within wrestling. Although we have the academy, we have the opportunity to obviously drive people in that direction, not just in the ring, but production, in social media, in other areas within the business of which we need resource. It can create opportunity for those people, but also with the talent that we have and the lifestyle that they have to lead to be a professional athlete. There's no reason we can't kind of spread that health and social well-being across that demographic within Louisville. The actual details around it is something that we haven't quite ironed out, but we are looking to introduce a charitable trust over the next 6 to 12 months that will allow us to create a bigger impact. We can draw down from central funding. We can obtain pots of money that are available for us to be able to deliver a lot more than what OVW would necessarily be able to do on its own. So the actual the key metrics of what that will look like, we're still kind of ironing out. I'm still understanding the business, the industry, and the area, but there's definitely a real desire from everyone within the senior management team, from Al to Brian to Daniel who does the production, to those that work on the periphery of the business. There's a real desire to show that OVW are looking to reintegrate itself back into the local community, and that will directly impact in one way or another, as to whether it's through opportunity or whether it's through workshops or health and well-being. We can certainly make a real positive impact.
I'm glad to have heard you say that. We've spoken to a lot of people that you met in December and earlier in April, and they're all very hopeful. They all had nothing but wonderful things to say. Everyone is very optimistic. There is a renewed energy and a spirit of enthusiasm around OVW among the fans and the talent. I was in the chat last night during the this week's episode of Rise, and I saw a couple of comments that came in from people. Obviously this means a great deal to them. They tune in every week from all over the world, but I heard some people speculating about what they thought that this move might be, and I'm glad that you said something about keeping it local, because the biggest fear was that you were going to take the whole franchise and just uproot it and take it over to the United Kingdom, which didn't make any sense to me. And
these wrestling fans.
Yeah, I know. Anyway, but
look,
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I completely accept skepticism. Look, I mean, you look at how many owners the business has had over the past. Everyone has come in with ideas, and and it's in a position where I think the company's in a different position than it was before Matt Craig and co took over. I think they can take a lot of credit for what they've achieved from a business perspective, but there's still a long way to go. And yeah, I mean, there's absolutely no desire to take this away from Louisville. In fact, I think there's such a huge opportunity here because of where it is located, the number of people in the catchment area. If you look, 1.6 million people within a drivable distance from the Davis Arena. If we can impact 10% of those people, is 160,000. If we can directly engage with 10% of that value, there's 16,000 people that could come and watch shows, sponsor us, promote us, wrestle for us, work for us. There's a huge opportunity within Louisville for those reasons. And I think when I was there during that time, at the end of April, we had some great meetings with the sports ministry, the tourism ministry, the economic alliance. They all came to our show on the 1st of May at the waterfront, and they loved every second of it. But I think they can see how much we want this to be a real focal point of the area, and they're completely behind us. And that means not just supporting us in driving people to Louisville, but supporting us in taking OVW outside and promoting what Louisville can offer to other states across the US. And we've been open about the possibility of growing the awareness outside of the US, but I think we are a little way away from that. I think we need to be realistic that there's so much low-hanging fruit and so much work to do locally before we start to take this further afield. But the name's Ohio Valley Wrestling, and that we want everyone to be proud of that. But I think with a lot of the creative and messaging that we're going to do, and we don't want it to be restrictive, because Ohio Valley doesn't mean anything to anybody in Germany. But if we can create, if we can, and the same with the German brands like BMW are called Bavaria Motorworks. Bavaria Motorworks means nothing to anybody in Canada, yet I'm sure there's millions of people that drive a BMW. So we want to create a brand that's still true to its roots and is still local, but is not restricted, meaning that we can create whatever message we want to whichever territories we want to go based around OVW and what that stands for. There's so many brands internationally that have no meaning, but people associate it with what they want them, what they want people to associate with. Google, like
it's a
Google's
made-up
now
word.
just a term. It's now. I think it's probably even in the dictionary.
Yeah.
It's a random brand name that people associate with searching online. So I'm not saying we're going to be as big as Google. I'd love that, but I think we've got an opportunity to focus locally and build a business locally, but not restricting us to where we can take it beyond that over the next 12, 24 months.
To touch on something that my co-host said here, there is such a huge wave of optimism that's swept over the people that we have the pleasure of talking to at OVW. There is no question. In fact, everyone proudly announces that your presence is kind of one of the big reasons for this renewed sense of optimism. And I'd also like to say, sitting on this side of the microphone, having had similar conversations like this before with people that were previously associated with the company, it's refreshing to hear you talk and have a plan and even be able to rattle off numbers like 1.6 million people in the area. You've clearly put in a lot of work even in this the past few months, getting to know Louisville and getting to know your product, your newly acquired product. And it's very refreshing to as an interviewer for you to come to the table with that, and I know that our listeners are going to find that very refreshing as well.
Thank you. I appreciate that.
I wouldn't have mentioned it, but you kind of mentioned it. Jim Cornette didn't talk about an OVW that wasn't from 1999 for like 15 years, right? And then you come along, and he kind of, not once but several times, Jim Cornette experience clips go viral about your new presence in OVW. When you wake up and there's like a Jim Cornette clip, how are you feeling? How did you react to Jim Cornette's comments on you?
Oh, it was amazing. Like, honestly, it was so much fun. I never envisaged Rob Edwards, Jim Cornette Twitter beef would be on my bingo card for this year. And I grew up watching. I mean, Jim was probably in or around or just before the Attitude Era. I think it was Jeff Jarrett. He was manager of, I think, when he used to come out to the ring. So yeah. I remember seeing Jim Cornette on TV back in the late 90s. I think it's only a good thing if it's awareness for us. I mean, the awareness is great. I think they've got everything completely wrong. I mean, if they want to know anything about how plans have been OVW and what they've achieved before, they just have to ask me, and I can give them exactly what they want to know. But I think it probably doesn't quite fit the agenda of what they do. I enjoyed listening to it. It was completely. It's completely and absolutely way off compared in terms of facts, but the fact that he's paying attention, I think he did say on the last podcast, we're going to follow this story and see what happens.
Wow.
I just want to keep giving him things to talk about now.
That's amazing.
That's a great answer.
I mean,
love it.
Kind of, I guess, when Matt took over, he's huge down here. I'm sure that you're aware of that. And my friends are really big Jim Cornette guys, and they would write in weekly, hey, what do you think about Matt Jones at OVW? What do you think about Matt Jones at OVW? And there was a point where Brian last said, hey, we're not going to really talk about current day OVW. And then you come, like, that's anecdotal, but then you come along and he kind of can't leave you alone. And that's very exciting. It's very exciting. And I mean, we've heard that Jim Cornette is a lot of different things. A nice guy gets thrown around too. So I do wonder if there's a little bit of the old if he's piling it on a little heavy for a show, but it's very exciting nonetheless.
Yeah, no, I think like a huge following within the wrestling industry. That's our demographic. These are wrestling fans that are listening to these podcasts. I know there's hundreds of thousands of people that listen to these podcasts. That's hundreds of thousands of people that may not have engaged, watched, or really heard much about OVW. Like, I only see it as a positive. In terms of, we can't control what people say about OVW or what people say about us as operators, and that's where obviously talking to you guys and anyone within the industry that wants to understand the fundamentals of what we're doing here and where we're looking to go, that's where you'll get kind of the factual information. But the fact that people, as I said, the fact that people are talking about us is a real positive. Hopefully they'll engage with us directly and they'll start to see what we're actually about and what our ambition is, and maybe we'll capture a few more people to follow us on a regular basis. So I've sent it to a few old friends who we used to watch wrestling with, and a couple of modern day wrestling fans. And yeah, the fact Jim Cornette's talking about a town of 14,000 people in Haverfordwest in front of a 250,000 audience of wrestling fans is bizarre, and I completely get why it doesn't make any sense to him. I completely get why it doesn't make sense to many people. But like we're trying to do this properly because we have to get this right as operators. We're really proud of what we've achieved in sport so far. So the success is relative. We're not Wrexham and Ryan Reynolds. We're not Tony Khan and Fulham. But the level of success as a ratio compared to where it started is something that we're really proud of. But if we don't get this opportunity right, which is why I guess the deal kind of took 9 months to really iron out exactly what this looks like, because we needed the comfort of clarity that we were coming into something that we think we can make a success of. Because if we don't, I don't want to be the person responsible for OVW not existing anymore. and our stock as operators would drop massively. So that there's an element of a selfish reason in that we want to maintain our success within the industry, but we want to do it in a way that creates something that, whether we're here or not, it will continue to thrive. That's what we've achieved in Wales. We're at a point now where the football club effectively runs itself. We have some great people down there that run it. So my involvement is minimal. I found out about a contract extension with one of our players yesterday on social media, as a fan would. So it just shows that it's in a good place where it can continue with or without me, and that's what we want to create here. That's why the foundations have to be in place. We can't have sponsors that invest in me or our ideas, or fans come and watch it for a particular talent. We need to build an aspirational business that people want to be a part of indefinitely, because then it doesn't matter if talent comes and goes, staff comes and goes, owners come and go. OVW still has a strong standing that can continue to thrive and possibly prove a few people wrong.
Rob, I love to hear all of that, and from both of us on this side of the microphone, we wish you the sincere best of luck.
Yes, unofficially speaking, best of luck.
OVW means a lot to us, means a lot to a lot of people, and I think that it is an excellent breeding ground for the type of things that you're talking about, just community and engagement. And I love the metaphor that you used of like BMW only means BMW. It doesn't really mean Bavaria Motor Works. Like I love this kind of you draw from a lot of different places, it seems like, and that is very, very exciting to hear and very refreshing to hear. I am curious though, on the way out, you're an Attitude Era guy. Who's your favorite wrestler from back in the day?
It's difficult.
I mean, during that time, man. Yeah.
I think it's got to be the Undertaker. I mean,
man.
It's got to be the Undertaker. I like the original Undertaker. I wasn't a fan of the bandana wearing motorbike driving.
The American Badass. Yeah, 100%.
I like the old school Dead Man.
That is correct.
I have to be him.
Well, Rob, thanks for sitting down with us today.
Thank you so much.
Really appreciate you. See you later, man.